Hi everyone. On Tuesday, October 14th, 2025, here at West Charleston campus in K101 from 2 to 3 in the afternoon, I gave a presentation on the Negro Leagues. My original intent was to record it so that I could share it on YouTube and with people that I told them I would do it. The problem is, after the presentation, I went and reviewed the tape, and the first issue was the slides. The slides weren't moving with my presentation, and so it was kind of stuck on the play ball sign here. So that was the first problem. The second problem was my voice. I held the microphone too close, and so my voice is already badly garbled. I sound like a bad Bob Dylan. It's very nasally and garbled, and so on the presentation audio, it was really bad, and so I was like, it's not usable. And so I wanted to do this presentation. The acoustics are better. I have a microphone, and I can I can just talk to you. I think part of the problem too was I was all hopped up and excited. College president was there, and so maybe on this presentation be a little calmer and kind of talk about the Negro Leagues. And so this is what this is this presentation. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like it and learn a few things. Play ball! Okay, play ball. Here we go. The first inning, we have the Negro Leagues. When you guys think about the Negro Leagues and you hear this presentation, the theme I want you to think about is this idea of opportunity. America is known as the land of opportunity, right? The rags to riches story, the American dream. America is a land of unlimited opportunity. You come and you work hard, you're a good person, some luck involved, and one day your ship will come in, right? You'll live your American dream. And there may be different American dreams, right? For some people it's baseball, for some people it's college teaching, for some people it's, whatever. Okay? And when we study the Negro Leagues and we look at this idea of opportunity, why did they have to play in the Negro Leagues? What was the reason? And you have this idea of loss of opportunity. And so I have some quotes here that demonstrate that. Walter Johnson, a Hall of Fame pitcher in the early 20th century, this is what he says about a man that he knows named Gibson. His quote, "There is a catcher that any big league club would like to buy his contract for $200,000. A lot of money in the 20th century, early 20th century. His name is Gibson. He can do everything. He hits the ball a mile, and he catches the ball so easily he might as well be in a rocking chair. Too bad this Gibson is a colored fellow." Too bad. You get it? Gibson's a good ball player. Walter Johnson says he can play in the major leagues. He'd be a really good ball player. The problem is, why is he being denied opportunity? His skin color, he's black. Right? He's a colored fellow. American society in the late 19th century, early 20th with segregation is what? African American people, black people, they're the labor class. You're the labor. You should be working. And so, we don't want you to play baseball. And if you are a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or whatever, you're teaching other black students, other black people. You're helping other black people. It's not white ones. And so it's this idea of opportunity and the loss of it. John Bud Fowler, an African American or black ball player in the late 19th century, one of the few black ball players that played in the major leagues in the 19th century. What does he say in an 1895 interview? "It was hard picking for a colored player this year. I didn't pick up a living. I just existed. I was down in the lower Illinois country in Missouri, cross-roading with teams in the little towns. My skin was against me. If I had not been quite so black, I might have caught on as a Spaniard, or something like that. The race prejudice is so strong that my black skin barred me. What was keeping him from opportunity? What was keeping Beth Fowler from that opportunity? Race prejudice. His skin was black. We don't want you playing baseball. You're the labor. You're uncivilized. You're this. You're that. Okay? You need to be the labor. Dizzy Dean, Hall of Fame pitcher in the 30s, made this observation. It's too bad those colored boys don't play in the big leagues. They sure got some great ball players. You get it? Opportunity denied. Is like some of these guys can play in the major leagues, but they're black. They can't. We don't want them playing with white people. We don't want them to have the same opportunity. John Buck O'Neill, first baseman for the Kansas City Monarchs, said this: baseball kept me out of the salary fields. For John Buck O'Neill, that's the point. Opportunity. Segregation, a good chunk of American society says what? You're the labor class. We don't want you playing baseball. We want you in the salary fields. So for John Buck O'Neill, first baseman for the Monarchs, that's the point. Baseball gives me an opportunity. An opportunity to what? To live the American dream. To progress. To develop. To reach my full destiny, kind of thing. Monty Irvin, a Newark Eagles Hall of Fame player. This is what he said about playing in the Negro Leagues. An incident would crop up here and there. They would call you a name or something. But being black, we got used to that, and we didn't let it deter us. Sometimes through adversity, I think it made us better players because we would try harder. They'd make us mad. And rather than fight or anything like that, we'd want to play so as to beat the opposition. We developed that kind of mentality. I think it was that kind of mentality that took us through. Right? So Monty Irvin, playing through adversity, finding your opportunities, and playing the best you can. So what's interesting is, when we study baseball, he was descended of a ball and bat game in 18th century England. Comes to America. And there's actually some examples of pre-Civil War Americans playing baseball, or a version of it. A version of what you and I, if we went back in time to that era, we'd go, oh, that's baseball. Pre-Civil War in the South, you have, in the 1930s, you had government employees going out and interviewing former slaves. And these people would have been children, right? They would have been children during the Civil War, pretty young. We're in the 1930s now, so about 70 years later, right? So these people, they're dying off, they're getting old. The U.S. government has a project where you interview former slaves. What was life like? And so there's some interesting quotes. Sam Scott, a resident of Alabama, said, when he was younger, during the Civil War era, I never did dance, but I could sure play baseball. And so you have here, he's remembering that, hey, we play baseball sometimes. John Cole, a Georgia resident, said, always on Saturday afternoon, you would have until first dark for baseball. So apparently his plantation was a little lenient. The black individuals, the slaves, would get together and you have first start till baseball. What's interesting is the full quote. The full quote after this, he says, after dark, we did dancing, and so it sounded like they were able to have some level of kind of on their own time at his plantation. Ed Allen, a African American or black resident of Arkansas, recalled as a child. Before the Civil War and during it. As a child, we played a version of baseball with black and white youth. So black children and white children, younger, they would play. Right? You have, during the Civil War years, there is a Brooklyn ball club of black ball players that plays in New York City in that area, so that's interesting. And so when we get to post-Civil War, you have white players organizing to play baseball. What you see is a parallel development for African American players. In the decade after the Civil War, New York and Philadelphia, especially Philadelphia, become an epicenter for black or African American baseball, to the point where if you were an African American or black individual and you wanted to play baseball, you would go to Philadelphia, try to get on. One historian estimates that at one point there were over 100 African American or black ball clubs in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia area. So that's kind of the epicenter of black baseball during this era, during the late 19th century. An early individual to know is a guy named Octavius Cato. That's a picture of him. Octavius, what's interesting about Octavius is Octavius, he was born in the South. He was born in South Carolina, but he was free. So he's an interesting individual because it's an example of an African American or black family. His mom and dad were free. They're free blacks, and he was born free. But they lived in South Carolina, a slave state. And so right off the bat, his family has some interesting origins and, some interesting experiences. Eventually, Octavius Cato, when he was a younger boy, the family moved to Philadelphia, probably for obvious reasons, being black in South Carolina before the Civil War. Definitely, for slaves, but even if you're free black, you have a tenuous existence, right? So while in Philadelphia, as you can see here, Octavius Decatur, Octavius Decatur guesses Nevada history. Octavius Cato, he goes to school at the Institute for Colored Youth. There was an institute in Philadelphia where African American individuals and former slaves, escaped slaves, could go to school and get an education. Octavius Cato went to that school. He graduated. Interesting story. He ended up teaching there and being the vice principal. Okay, and so that's interesting. As an adult, he goes back to work in education, and he will become a teacher and a principal for this school. Along with that effort of educating African American and black individuals, after the Civil War, Octavius Cato will lead efforts to integrate Philadelphia. And one of those integration efforts is he will start a black ball club. It's a mix of students and members of the local Black Knights of Pythia, which is a black social organization during that period. And so you have Octavius Cato, an educator, helping integrate Philadelphia. He is, like every American, he loves grandma apple pie and baseball. He starts his own baseball club, the Philadelphia Pythians. And why is he? Why are they called the Pythians? A lot of the players were members of a black or African American social organization called the local Black Knights of Pythia. So, interesting guy. Octavius Cato, he will be murdered, unfortunately, in October of 1871. He'll be gunned down on the street by an individual. Historians argue that it was because of his integration efforts that he is murdered. He's murdered in public as he's walking down the street. Second inning. So in the late 19th century, this is the landscape you see. When you read the primary documents and study the era, you'll see white ball clubs, You'll see black ball clubs. You'll see mixed. You'll see integrated baseball teams and leagues, right? All over the East and into the Midwest, right? We talked about John W. Bud Fowler. I read you his quote earlier. He played second base for the Stillwater, Minnesota club in the Northwest League. And then Moses Fleetwood Walker is pretty famous. Catcher for Toledo. Same league as Bud Fowler, the Northwest League. Well, Toledo joins the American Association, a major league, a white major league. And so he is considered historians consider him the first black player on a major league circuit. Bud Fowler also played at the major league level as well. So those are two examples of African American individuals playing in the major leagues. George Stubby, also a pitcher. George Stubby, African American individual, a big guy. He is going to play in the major leagues briefly as well in the late 1880s. And George Stubby's story is an example of how you're starting to allow black ball players in the major leagues. In 1887, the white major minor leagues agree to not have black players. So George Stubby's kind of a part of that. The New York Giants were wanting Stubby to play, to pitch for him. And so this is the era you start getting, well, maybe we don't want black ball players. Again, that theme of opportunity, denying opportunity to African American ball players. They're black. They should be they're the labor class. You're the labor. But, you should be working. And so you agree to keep out black ball players. A black ball player takes away a spot for a white ball player, right? Frank Grant, second baseman in the early major leagues, considered a forerunner of the 20th century Negro leagues. And so those independent teams, black African American clubs, are going to kind of be the forerunner or the ancestor of the major Negro leagues in the 20s and the 30s. There's Bud Fowler. I'll let you guess where he is. He's the short guy in the back. So that's a picture of Bud Fowler enjoying a team photo. This is a picture of Fleetwood Mac, the band. No, Fleetwood Walker. Fleetwood Bud Walker. This is a picture of him. This is Frank Grant when he was playing for the Buffalo team. So these are 19th century African American ball players. Third inning. So as you get into the late 19th, early 20th century, as you have African American or black ball players barred from playing in the major leagues, you start to see barnstorming teams and independent teams. What is a barnstorming team? You get 9 of your best friends together, get on a bus or car or a carriage, whatever, and you barnstorm. You go town to town. And when you get to the town, the first thing you ask, do they have a ball club? And they say yes. You set up a game. You play a few games. And so you go town to town. They'll charge you charge a ticket, 10 cents a ticket, and then you and the other team you split the proceeds from that sale. So that's kind of how you make money. 1880s and 90s, historians estimate there's around 200 African American ball clubs, either playing in the independently or in loosely organized leagues, mostly in the East. I will let you guess what is the most common nickname or mascot in these early ball clubs. Cuban Giants, Cuban X Giants, Harrisburg Giants. Interesting. So by 1900, you have all black clubs are prominent in the South and Midwest. Okay, they're starting to organize more. You're barred from playing in the white major leagues, and so here you are, you're playing in independent teams and barnstorming teams. And like that quote earlier, Bud Fowler, what did he do? He was crisscrossing Southern Illinois and Missouri. Why? They're barnstorming. They're playing. You're coming across town. They're playing ball, right? The biggest issue with these barnstorming and independent teams, from one point of view, is that they require a lot of European American or white support financially. And when you get into the 1920s and you go, well, why set up a Negro leagues? And that was actually one of the motivations, being, why can't African American or black owners, wealthy African American or black owners, why can't they sponsor a team or a league, that doesn't depend on European American or white support? Early 20th century, this is like you're getting into the creation of a official Negro leagues. Okay. In the Midwest, you had a league kind of forming around the Chicago Giants, Indianapolis ABCs, the St. Louis Giants, and perhaps the New York Yankees of the Negro Leagues, the Kansas City Monarchs. And so, Kansas City Monarchs, very famous early 20th century team. In the East, you see a league kind of forming: the Lincoln Giants, the Brooklyn Royal Giants, Cuban Stars, and the Homestead Grays. Okay. What's interesting in the South, what you see in the South developing is company ball clubs. Companies would organize their black employees, or the black employees would organize themselves and go, you still have the owners support you financially, but you have companies kind of forming factories. You form a team and you go play. Birmingham Industrial Leagues. Okay. You have the Nashville Standard Giants and the Birmingham Black Barons. That's interesting, right? Fourth inning. Here's the Indianapolis. Here are the Indianapolis ABCs. This is an early pennant of the Indianapolis ABCs. 2013. 1913. Fifth inning. Like I said, the Kansas City Monarchs, you could say, are the New York Yankees of the Negro Leagues. This is the team, and this is actually the 1942 World Series Kansas City Monarchs. Brooklyn Royal Giants. What's interesting about these guys is they're all hotel employees of that owner. He owns a hotel, and they play games behind in a ball field behind the hotel. And so you have the Brooklyn Royal Giants. Pretty interesting. Here is a jersey of the Brooklyn Giants. It looks a lot like the Brooklyn Dodgers, right? Blue. And so same thing there. Sixth inning. So you get into this idea that you start having African American, black financiers going, why can't we support this ourselves? Why, we're depending on European American or white support, but why can't we, support our own league? So Rube Foster, a businessman, a former Negro Leagues player, he played in those independent leagues. And later in life, he becomes more famous, wealthier. So the 20s to the 30s, 1920, you have the Negro National League. And you can see where the teams are: Chicago, Cuban Stars, Dayton Marcos, Detroit, the ABCs, Kansas City Monarchs, and the St. Louis Giants. And so they're one league, the Negro National League. In 1920, the same year, another African-American financier, Thomas T. Wilson, he owned the Nashville Elite Grays, and so he created the Southern League. And so he'll You have teams in Nashville, Alabama, Birmingham, Memphis, Montgomery, and New Orleans. You're trying to get a Southern League going. In 1923, you have the Eastern Colored League begin for a few years. You had a Hilldale team, Cuban Stars, Brooklyn Royal Giants, the Baccarat Giants, the Lincoln Giants, and the Baltimore Black Sox. Right? You do have the Rube version of the Negro League that fall apart, financial issues. So in 31, you have another iteration by Gus Greenlee of the National League, Negro National League. And from the 30s to the 60s, you had the Negro American League, which is mainly in the South and the Midwest. This is a famous quote by Rube Foster. He was a pitcher when he was a player. Playing days, he was a pitcher. What did he say? "Do not worry. Try to appear jolly and unconcerned. I have smiled often with the bases full and 2 strikes and 3 balls on the batter. This seems to unnerve." Right? You're supposed to be panicking. But Rube Foster's cool as a cucumber. Right? He's gonna strike you out. He's not worried about it. He'll have you ground out. He's not worried at all. Who are the best black ball players? The 1935 Pittsburgh Crawfords are usually touted. Like in the major leagues, who's the best baseball club of all time? 27 Yankees. The 1935 Pittsburgh Crawfords had an amazing team of future Hall of Famers right here. Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, who we've heard quoted earlier, Cool Papa Bell, Judy Johnson, a guy, he's your name, but he's a guy, and Oscar Charleston. Satchel Paige, by the time he got to the major leagues, after baseball began to integrate, Satchel Paige, a Kansas City Monarch pitcher, the oldest rookie in Major League history. He was 42 when he joined the Cleveland Indians. So played several years. His nickname, the Ageless Wonder. The Ageless Wonder. Right? 42, and so plays for several Major League Baseball clubs. Here's his famous quote: "Age is a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." Josh Gibson, often known as the Black Babe Ruth. He, like what it said, what that quote he said at the beginning, could hit a ball a mile. He caught so easily, he might as well be in a rocking chair. And so this is a picture of him, a couple pictures of him. Another picture of him at the bat in a Negro League's ball club. James Cool Papa Bell, cool under pressure, cool under fire. Here he is, ready to hit. And, William Julius, Judy Johnson, another famous Crawford player. Oscar Charleston's an interesting historical figure of baseball. Kind of an example of the reputation people have, and whether that fits with the reality of it. Oscar Charleston is kind of known as image-wise, a thug, a bad ball player, get into fights and all that. The primary documents don't necessarily bear that out, but you can see here a picture. Oscar Charleston maybe looks a little mean, ready to play, right? It's top of the 7th inning. The Negro League All-Star Game, just like there was the white All-Star Game, there was a Negro League's All-Star Game. Gus Greenlee sponsored a Comiskey Park in Chicago game. Between the 30s and the 60s, it had best ball players from the East and West leagues. It played about mid-August. The white All-Star game, usually July. Mid-August should be the black ball player. And Comiskey Park. That's where the Chicago White Sox played. Some Negro Leagues team played in the Major League Park, and this is an example. The Negro League's All-Star Game, this was its biggest moneymaker, most popular event. 10,000 people going. There was a Negro Leagues World Series, 2 iterations in the mid-20s. You can see the Monarchs going. 24, 25, 26, 27. The Monarchs, the Hilldales Club, the Chicago Giants. The more famous Negro World Series is the one that happened in the 40s. And so you can see this one. Homestead Grays, the Newark Eagles, Homestead Grays, Birmingham Black Barons, New York Cubans, and so you can see them playing the World War II era. Okay. 7th inning stretch. In 1908, Jack Norworth and Albert von Tilzer wrote a song. They were asked to write a song about baseball, and they wrote a song called "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." What you and I sing during the game, the 7th inning stretch, is actually the chorus of a 2-verse song. In the presentation last October, about a month ago, I played it in the presentation, and and they listened to it and we sang with them. The Panopto program I use to make videos, it can't capture like YouTube videos, and so I'll have the video. You can look up the video. Just look up "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" by 1908 original version by Jack Norworth and Albert von Tilzer. And so it's a really good version. These are the lyrics. Katie Casey was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad, just to root for the hometown crew, every Sioux. Katie Blue. On a Saturday, her young boo called to see if she'd like to go to see a show. But Miss Kate said no. I'll tell you what you can do. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Katie Casey saw all the games, knew all the players by their first names, told the umpire he was wrong all along, good and strong. When the score was just 2-2, Katie Casey knew what to do. Just to cheer up the boys she knew, she made the gang sing this song. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back. It's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. There you go. So anyways, so you go listen to that. Just Google or just YouTube a 1908 original "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" signed by Jack North, and you can hear the actual version, not my bad one. So bottom of the 7th inning. 1942 World Series. Here's the players. 1940 Negro Leagues World Series. So there's some players. So, see them. An average Negro League salary in the 40s was about $1,800 for 6 to 8 months of baseball. That's over 6 to 8 months. You got $1,800. So that's even low for that era. By contrast, Major League stars could make $6,000 a season. So, tells you the contrast. How big did these games get? The Kansas City Monarchs at one point during World War II, they're drawing $30K a game. That's major league level, right? You're drawing all kinds of fans. Don Malarker, Negro Leagues player and manager, in an interview, this is kind of what he talked about, and this goes back to my theme of opportunity. Opportunity denied. Don Malarker said, "I used to have Negroes occasionally ask me, 'Do you think Negroes can play in the major leagues?' And do you know what I'd say to them? I'd say, 'Do you think so-and-so here, who is a barber, can he cut hair like a white man?' And the answer from the player, 'Well, sure, yeah, certainly.' And I, Don Malarker, would say, 'Well, what's baseball that I can't play it like a white man?' Continuing the quote, Don Malarker says, "The propaganda of keeping the Negro out of the major leagues made even some of the Negroes think we didn't have the ability." And so you get it, the psychological impact of just being told all this time, you're the labor class. You can't play baseball. You shouldn't play baseball, right? You can't play in the major leagues. 8th inning. Well, not to leave the ladies out, there are women in the Negro Leagues. Effa Manley co-owned the New York Eagles with her husband for a decade. She was the business manager. Effa Manley is the only woman in the Negro Leagues in the Hall of Fame. She is in as an executive. You have Minnie Forbes. She was an owner of a Negro Leagues team, the Detroit Stars, during the late 50s. Mr. Bills, any exciting players? Absolutely. Indianapolis Clowns in the mid to late 50s, they had several women playing on their team. Toni Stone, Connie Morgan, and Mamie Peanut Johnson, pitcher. Historians have found these are 3 of about a dozen women who played in the Negro Leagues over its several decade-long existence. Here's a picture of Toni Stone playing ball. Here's Miss Mamie Peanut Johnson. Why Peanut? She was short. She's like 5'2". So here's her playing ball. This is Connie Morgan. Connie Morgan is pictured with Richard King Tut King. Richard King. He was a first baseman. He wasn't really a great ball player. He was more fun. He was more known as like doing tricks, doing tricks with the ball and kind of being funny. He's kind of known for the comedic talent now, and more than the ball player, more than on the field. There is Oscar Charleston. You see Oscar Charleston. This is him older. You saw him earlier. Picture earlier. You saw him. He was younger, less fat. So here's Oscar Charleston. He's now a coach for the Indianapolis Clowns. And there you have it. Connie Morgan, second base playing. So World War II happens, right? We get World War II going on. And A.P. Happy Chandler, he became the baseball commissioner in 1945. And as a brand new commissioner, he was asked, Mr. Chandler, how do you feel about black ball players? How do you feel about blacks playing in, or as the vernacular at the time, colored men playing in the Negro League, the major leagues? And A.B. Happy Chandler had this to say: if a colored boy can make it on Okinawa and Guadalcanal, he can make it in baseball. What are Okinawa and Guadalcanal? They're World War II battles, pretty big ones. Okay, and so Chandler's like, listen, if they can make it in war, they can make it in combat, certainly they can make it on the ball field. Well, the most famous, probably African-American ball player Jackie Robinson, here's his picture. Jackie Robinson is considered the first major league African American or black player. Obviously, as we now know, the modern era. In the late 19th century, you had several black ball players. He started out with the Negro League Kansas City Monarchs after World War II. He did fight in World War II. He is a World War II veteran, came home. In 1947, the Brooklyn Dodgers signed him on to play. And, this isn't a gimmick. Brooklyn signed Jackie Robinson because he was a good ball player, star ball player, really good job. With integration, as you can see, the need for Negro Leagues kind of dies out, so it's kind of weird. It's this piece of Americana, it kind of dies of its own success. Once African American or black ball players got the opportunity, the theme again, opportunity to play in the major leagues, the leagues kind of fall apart. And so 1962 is going to be the last season for the Negro American League. Ninth inning. So what's the meaning here? Again, opportunity. You see this opportunity to participate in American life and culture, right? Opportunity denied. You're the labor class. So what do? If you want to play baseball, you gotta go play. You gotta go to the Negro Leagues. You gotta play with yourselves, go to your own community. Developing culture. We see the development of African American culture post Civil War. Not one fraught with oppression, injustice, slavery, but a part of an American community that is contributed to American life. And then the Negro Leagues is an example of the good and bad of American history. What's interesting about it, like I said a second ago, it's this piece of Americana. Yay, the Negro Leagues, woohoo! Well, wait a minute. Why did it exist? Why did it have to exist? Because the larger majority culture was denying opportunity to participate. If you're interested in some books, Negro Leagues, The Rise and Ruin of a Black Institution, Mark Grabowski, Complete History of the Negro Leagues, Lawrence D. Hogan, The Forgotten History of African American Baseball, and then Shades of Glory. And so there's some books for you. Extra innings questions. I took questions from the audience on the October 14th meeting. If you have a question, leave a comment, subscribe, and like. So, I swore I would never do that on my videos. Anyway, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will ask them or answer them. Thank you for stopping by, and everyone, go have a great day at the ballpark.